Ian Machado Garry has destroyed the hype train of Carlos Prates. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Fight Franchise and our recap and review of the main event of UFC Kansas City, where Ian Garry stopped the hype train of Carlos Prates in what was quite an interesting bout, which showed kind of flaws in both guys' games, but Ian Garry got the decision win in quite a simple performance when you look back on it. Going to kind of give my breakdown of the fight and how things kind of played out and what I want to see for both guys going forward. Ian Garry, took this fight on relatively short notice. The UFC Kansas City main event was scheduled to be Khalil Roundtree taking on Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill, I believe, was injured, so they had to scrap that fight. And then they asked who was available on short notice. Carlos Prates was on the UFC 314 card, about to fight, I want to say Gilbert Burns. No, he was supposed to fight Jeff Neal. They get pulled from that fight. Jeff Neal, I think, got injured. And they go, okay, Carlos Prates, you main event this. Who at welterweight is free? Ian Garry stepped up. He stepped up to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov on short notice. And now he stepped up to face Carlos Prates on short notice. The one thing going into this bout, Carlos Prates had a lot of hype with his KO power and his striking, where Ian Garry recently he came into the UFC and he was known as a striker, but since training at Shooter Box in Brazil, he's kind of elevated his MMA game overall, and he's added in his grappling, his wrestling and his submission attempts, and he's kind of changed up his game. And both guys kind of square off, where in the first round, Carlos Prates is very kind of measured, a little too measured. He's very tentative on the feet, and he's just trying to look for that perfect opening. He can't get the range on Ian Garry and get that timing. Ian Garry's, stinging him with the jab and the lead kicks, and he's just doing good work as Ian Garry with the body kicks and his range. And he's just, whenever Carlos Prates was coming in to find a bit of momentum, he would look for this kind of weird single leg. He was never aiming to go for a double leg. He would just go for this kind of simple single leg where Carlos Prates would wiggle out and kind of stuff the takedown of it. Where in the first round, Ian Garry just had the more volume. When you look at the total strikes thrown, 39 total strikes, landed 15 to Ian Garry, and Carlos Prates threw 16 and landed 7. So that first round KO streak that he was on came to an end. He was just very laboured and slow, was Carlos Prates. Second round was more of the same, where it was Ian Garry kind of having the more success on the feet, landing his jab, landing the right hand, and he was just doing the better work again with his kicks, where Prates was just looking for that perfect shot, looking for that perfect opening, and he was never doing it. The one thing Ian Garry did brilliantly, he was circling around the octagon and never really letting himself get backed up against the fence. And if he was getting backed up against the fence, if he didn't circle away, he would shoot for a takedown to stop Carlos Prates' momentum, or he would land his own offense to send Carlos Prates back. Carlos Prates has done a lot of brilliant work backing his opponents up when they're getting up against the fence and they've got nowhere to go and he's teed off on him. Ian Garry just never let that happen, whether he was faking with the takedowns or actually looking for the takedowns, or he was kind of landing a jab and offense of his own hand. He was doing great work, and again, total strikes, he threw 70 in this round, landed 36. Carlos threw 22, landed 12. 2 rounds in the bank for Ian Garry when it came to that round. And, Carlos Prates, he was just looking for that perfect shot and he was not finding it. And 2 rounds in, you're thinking to yourself, Carlos Prates needs to show way more urgency. He needs to go look for something. He needs to go try and take the fight to Ian Garry. Third round, again, more of the same. This time, Ian Garry actually lands the takedowns and gets Carlos Prates down. And he kind of smothers him and lands a bit of damage on the ground. But in total, again, 10 strikes did Carlos Prates land out of 20. And 33 out of 60 did Ian Garry land. He tripled him in strike volume. He landed a brilliant uppercut. I think it was in this round where Carlos Prates closes the distance and Ian Garry just times him with a brilliant uppercut and rocks him at one point and has Prates backing up. And at this point, you're like, what is Carlos Prates doing? He needs to throw the kitchen sink at Ian Garry. He needs to throw more volume. Like, was this his first 5-round fight and he knew he was against a game opponent and he was going to get tired? Was that why he never threw enough volume? Did he just not trust himself against a high-level caliber striker like himself in Ian Garry? I feel like Carlos' striking is just a bit better. Maybe it's just because when Carlos Prates is the hammer, he can just dominate these guys in the striking department. But when he's the nail and somebody's smashing him against the head and trying to land offense on him, he struggles. Maybe that was the case. Ian Garry dominates and wins another round, and he's 3 rounds up, and he's coasting towards a comfortable decision. The fourth round, very similar to the third, but Carlos does land some big shots, does he? He does land a bit of offense. He only threw 12 shots out of 33, where Garry landed 26 of 45, and then he shot for 7 takedowns. Did Ian Garry? He landed 2. He dominated with the kind of volume of the fight, but Carlos Prates towards the end of the fourth round did land some big offense and did kind of... some people could argue it for him, but most people probably give it either way, 50-50 round, with Ian Garry doing the better work over the majority of the round. It was just the end towards the tail end of the round, Carlos Prates having success. But again, just not enough volume, just not enough urgency. And then the fifth and final round... this was where it became close, and not due to Carlos Prates maybe showing the urgency, because he managed to kind of stifle a takedown of Ian Garry and get on top of him in mount. Ian Garry's kind of dominating the round again on the feet, and he's doing the better work. Carlos, credit to him, he's kind of pushing forward and trying to get Ian against the back foot and get him up against the fence. He did at one point almost get him up against the fence, but Ian just runs away and kind of gets back away from the fence, and they're both kind of trading on the feet towards the end of the end of the fifth round. There's about a minute 30 left to go. Ian Garry shoots for these lazy takedowns, these lazy single legs, and they roll through, and Carlos Prates ends up on top. And Carlos Prates got a minute to go. And the one thing to note, Carlos Prates must have heavy hands, because Ian Garry's been rocked a little times in this fight, but he was, for the most part, he was the one rocking Carlos Prates. Carlos lands some huge ground and pound and hammer fists, and next thing you know, he's having the success and rocking Ian Garry on the ground, and he's smashing him on the ground, and he can take the fight from Ian Garry and win this fight via TKO if he smashes him a bit more. Ian Garry's got his wits about him. He's surviving, and credit to, I think it was Jason Herzog. No, it wasn't Jason Herzog. It was Dan Mergliotta. He was kind of watching this fight and never kind of rushed in. And Ian Garry, he was smartly defending himself, but he was getting smashed on the ground. He was getting hit with stuff, smashed, and landed some huge shots, did Carlos Prates. And towards the end of the fight, and where he kind of smashes him on the ground till the final bell, and he wins the end of that round just due to the sheer damage he done in that last minute of the fight, and almost winning the fight via TKO. But Ian Garry survives brilliantly towards the end of the fight, and it goes to the judges' scorecard where he wins the unanimous decisions. Credit to Ian Garry. He showed a brilliant mixed martial arts game, which is why I predicted him to win a decision. I knew he would get takedowns. I knew he would stifle the game of Carlos Prates. I thought he'd have more success with the takedowns, but Carlos showed he had good takedown defense, but he did great stifling the forward pressure with takedowns, with shots and offense of his own, and showed the game plan on how to beat someone like Carlos Prates. Did show some vulnerabilities, in the grappling. He isn't still the best. Carlos could stuff him, and then Carlos rolled through and smashed him on the ground. I'm pretty sure when he fought Michael Venom Page, the same thing happened. He took down Michael Venom Page, where Michael Venom Page was able to scramble, reverse the position, and get mount on Ian Garry. So something Ian Garry needs to work on is when he takes people down, he takes them and holds them down, and they're not kind of scrambling and reversing positions. He showed good mixed martial arts game, but as for what's next for him, he doesn't deserve a title shot. He needs to win a couple of bouts. I think Sean Brady's up there. I think Shafkat's up there. I think the winner of Usman and Buckley's up there. But what this opens up is a 4-man tournament, or kind of who is the next in line, After JDM and Bilal face, whoever, you've got Islam Makhachev who's trying to skip the line. You guys need to all fight each other and figure out who's next. There's no, I'm next for the title because I beat Carlos Prates on short notice. Nah, mate, Carlos Prates was like 11th or 12th in the rankings. You need to go beat an Usman or a Buckley, the winner of that. Maybe face a Sean Brady. Maybe beat one of those like Shafkat Rakhmonov. I think he can skip the line because he is the kind of number one contender at this point. But he's already beaten Ian Garry. So unless Buckley or Usman fight Shafkat Rakhmonov or Sean Brady does for a number one contender bout, I don't know. But yeah, credit to Ian Garry. Showed a great mixed martial arts game. The one thing I'll give credit to Ian Garry is he does mix up the kind of styles well. He kind of throws in the grappling, throws in the wrestling, the striking. He's doing it well. He's showing an overall mixed martial arts game rather than, being a specialist like is Carlos Prates, who's a striker who can get exposed by, these wrestlers in this division. Imagine that was Sean Brady against Carlos Prates, who can take him and hold him down and smash him. We saw what happened against Leon Edwards. So Carlos Prates has some work to do in the division. I'd like to see him fight someone like Wonderboy maybe in a good striking battle or something like that, or fight someone else lowering the rankings like Jeff Neal or something, and get a good win under his belt and get the momentum back in his favour. As for Ian Garry, maybe Sean Brady or the winner of Usman Buckley. You need to fight one of them lot, and then you can maybe talk about a world title shot. But great main event for UFC Kansas City. It was a good card. It was a fun card. There were some very fun finishes and fun fights on the card. The main event didn't deliver as we wanted. We wanted a bit more of a war, but credit to Ian Garry. He was the one showing the kind of style and the momentum on the fight against Prates. Prates was very laboured, and that's one thing I hate. It was one thing I hate about Chito Vera. It's amazing when you get finishes. It's amazing when you dominate your opponent and land on them when you're not throwing as much volume as them. A key fight was when Chito Vera fought Rob Font. I think Rob Font landed 100 or 150 more significant strikes, but Chito won every round because all the strikes he was landing was damaging and dropping Rob Font. If Carlos Prates wants this style where he's not as volume heavy as these other guys, he needs to land, and he needs to throw and land significantly. He just didn't trust himself. I don't know whether he didn't trust his cardio going into a 5-round fight, but he needs to definitely work on that. Maybe ditch the cigarettes and the alcohol. And the Fighting Nerds have now got their first loss. I'm pretty sure Bruno Brazil was in the Fighting Nerds, and they kind of go, no, that's bad for business. It was the 4 lads in the Fighting Nerds. The first one's taking his L. We've got Ruffy, Jean Silva, and Carl Bahalio, who's left. So we'll see how they get on for the rest of the year. Let me know what your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think Ian Garry deserves the title shot? Do you think he needs to get 2 more wins, 1 more win to get a title shot? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think Carlos Prates is overrated, or was he just bit off more than he could chew for the first time in the octagon, and he's got more room to grow? Let us know down your thoughts in the comments below. Leave a like if you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more MMA and fight content coming soon. We hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll catch you in the next one.